the undulating mountainous landscape of southwestern Uganda. A narrow road meanders its way through the thick and scenic forests, the steep hills and the crowded human settlements, past one of the world's deepest natural lakes, Lake Bunyonyi. Echuuya Forest. This was once home to one of the world's oldest people, the Batwa pygmies, who also inhabit Rwanda, Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Decades ago, the Batwa lived here freely, depending on the forest's natural resources for physical, economic and emotional sustenance.
konka nazoku guyandira ekyabusha angambire bishuba konka nagarukayo nkazaha ekyo ndashabaha bona kitasuna necha bona uyo ari kundira ebyabusha konka nazaha bona magara ganje nabana nachi bona twagenda tuterere.
The annexation and gazetting of forests and forest reserves by the colonial British government led to the Batwa becoming homeless, desolate and without economic means. Although the literacy level of the Batwa is low, they have an intricate and sophisticated folklore comprising song, dance, narratives, storytelling and poetry, which they have used to communicate traditional wisdom and values through the generations. Today, many Batwa are hired as cultural performers by neighbouring communities in exchange for food and drink. Having lost their language, even their performances are in the languages of the more dominant neighbours.
Traditionally, the Batwa have been hunter-gatherers. They used to hunt wildlife freely without any inhibition from any government or from the neighbors, because that is their lifestyle. They would go to the forest to look for honey, to look for tubers, to look for edible plants, vegetables, and of course including the meat from the wildlife. But it is important to note that originally even the wildlife and the Batwa pygmies never used to actually go deep within the forest. It is only recent development that the Batwa had to move far away from the farms, following the wildlife as the wildlife was being chased from the farms by the cultivators and indeed the cattle keepers.
These gentle people, who number only 3,000 in Uganda, are on the verge of extinction. The lifestyle of the Batwa was interlinked and intertwined with the forest environment. Today, they are landless and without many rights. Their economic life comprises of working or begging for food from their more dominant neighbors. Once a proud people, they have had to make dramatic adjustments and improvise survival mechanisms in order to fit in with the neighboring communities. They have been reduced to scavenging and even thieving for survival, which has generated animosity and mistrust from the neighbors. There have also been instances of mass beating of Batwa by their neighbors on mere suspicion. Being a disenfranchised minority, their voices, concerns, their tears, joys and realities are overshadowed by those of their neighbors.
Here comes the legislation by law that they are not supposed to live within the forest environment, first of all. Secondly, they are not supposed to enter freely within the forest environment, nor even going there to harvest the herbs, to harvest the vegetables which they used to live in, nor even getting the honey, nor even getting what. So comes a time when such legislation was put in place, then they moved out. Now, one important question, moving out to where?
The Batwa live in small family units and community clusters on land now owned by the neighbors, or in temporary urban slums without basic amenities like water and sanitation. This continued cycle of poverty, harassment by neighbors, and the absence of income-generating activities has resulted in the Batwa developing a low sense of self-esteem, which manifests itself in negative social practices, making them an extremely vulnerable group.
Living with Batwa is not bad, but the only problem which you normally meet, they are just alone, they don't have how to eat, they don't have where to stay. They are being neglected by many people. They are not fit for them in the society. If they sit somewhere in the other local people, they say, no, you are Mutwa, you go away.
Mutua ta atakaraga obona mukonjo obutakaraga obona mubwe akaragenka obutwache nende ate nende obutukuzwenga na obukolongo baitu obulemezi bwato obutuna abo nibulemezi bwato obu tutole obona kibanje kurugira matongo hanera mbali kurugira hani yonkobala kakubala obumunguli obwetaka lyandi ukakitama ngositama na bantu bantu.
The communities had tended to sort of sideline them. Don't involve them in politics, don't involve them in development activities. They were looked at as low people.
As a result of overpopulation in southwestern Uganda, access to agricultural land is difficult, even for the dominant communities. This has led to the Batwa clamoring for the same limited resources as their neighbors and an increase in inter-community tension.
These are people who are very respectful. They are people who value life. They value interaction, human rights. They value very much one's relations. If you look at a neighbor, you look at a fellow Mutwa.
It has become evident to many NGOs and development agencies working with the Batwa that the root causes of their poverty and marginalization must be addressed. They need to be consulted on their needs and their specific requirements.
Wana si munyani wanje kuwa mze. Zina jeno hope.
Munyangani.
Ya, munyangani. Hora, honeka. Okumere. Yes. Nimwe bale kukola. Mukombere.
The body of their vast indigenous knowledge must be integrated in the development planning.
Landlessness affects the Batwa because most of the time they keep just moving to the Bachiga communities to look for food so that they can be able to feed the children, and sometimes even the little money they get, it is taken for drinking, and you find they remain in that poverty situation because they are not stable.
They obviously choose to drink, and they obviously enjoy it when they do. They don't have a problem with it. Whether other people do is another matter.
Alcohol abuse, malnutrition, and skin diseases are just some of the problems linked with the Batwa community.
Most of the Batwa are marginalized. Others are retarded, because you can see the younger boy who is 10 years, but the height is just as far as maybe about 1 feet.
Nandamanya omusikiriza gwaguta batakagurebaga gwagubitaga butamanya bokarwara babahe bibazi we akaguma kurwarirayo batakebeye we nati indwara zo twine muredi igenda no kumaje bakebera umuntu bakamenya indwara niki ntago wahurira ari koce koko ugaruti n'umushije yaba ari ko bakamenya uti nenkorora evangizemo umushije umugurire kijuma akinyunye yamara kukinyunya bamutera gakato umutwe gwaba guri ku aterere.
Improving the health of this group is obviously quite a challenge, but some of the issues I also identified were that their general health was poor and their nutrition was poor, so that's one reason why we wanted to focus on nutrition. But of course that has many facets to it. That also is about food security, it's about educating them as to what they should be eating, and also they were heavily infested with worms from clinical signs. So I've actually undertaken a deworming program with all the communities just recently, and they were wonderful. They seemed very happy to do that.
So in case if someone can suffer from malaria, there is nothing, there is just dying. Doesn't have medical treatment because he doesn't have that money for medicine and even food. So I don't think that really their future is promising.
Lack of friendly and appropriate health services has sunk the community to even lower health levels.
Pneumonia is very, very rampant in terms of killing the children. But this is expected in a community where they would have they have inadequate clothing, they don't have adequate beddings, and you can see their houses, the way they look like.
I think one of the difficulties that the Batwa have is their access to healthcare, in that they're not made welcome. They still say they're not welcome at the health centres. The health centres are a distance away. We have actually managed to get stretchers for each of our communities so that they can have their own stretcher groups, so they're not dependent on the local people. They're poorer, so they certainly appear less well nourished. Skin problems, eye problems just go untreated because they won't seek treatment, or they either because they're worried about having to pay, or they're worried about being badly treated in the health centres. So their health is more compromised. Certainly when I asked them what they did if they got malaria, I was depressingly told they wait and see if they die.
The marginalization of the Batwa poses specific problems in addressing their reproductive health needs and rights. The most vulnerable members of the Batwa community are women and the girl child.
When I've talked about things like control of family size, I'm told just don't even go there. They have lots of children because they know they're going to die.
Today, there is a prevalence of early teenage pregnancies. It is now evident that there is an urgent need to specifically address the reproductive health situation of the Batwa community, especially the girl child.
There is one common belief among the Batwa and the neighbors that once you have sex with a Batwa pygmies girl, then that you will never suffer from backache.
As a result of low self-esteem and education, the Batwa girl child is exposed to risks such as STD and HIV/AIDS.
Hati baswenkuru betu tinda bamanya konka nampuliraga ngo omuhara yatwara enda nga bamutwaraga mu muhonga babona yinenda nga baje kugira ki kumuroha.
If they're impregnated by the local community, in which case they may well have a larger baby than they're physically designed to, I can see that they could well have problems. But we know that the maternal mortality rate in Uganda is a problem generally, and these people are bound to be worse off.
A situation even arises where some of these women are saying no, they would rather get money in any way possible by, of course, selling their bodies to the neighbors.
Most of the community have no access to information or any reproductive health services.
Once HIV/AIDS becomes very prevalent in the local community, I think they'll be particularly at risk. They don't have a strong voice for themselves and are not going to stand up for themselves. We also know that they drink a lot, so when they drink, they're going to be vulnerable. If they're drunk, anything could happen.
Ekyasiresire n'okushambana yaza hariya akagenda kamaraya akahura n'owenjiku, yaza hariya agahura n'owasirimu, yaza hariya agahura niyo byatukutandikiye twaruganywe twaza mu konka kare nabwo koza mu caro byabitarimo ababireshire nabahare nk'abamaraya n'abashikigazi ba maraya koko baraza za Kampala baraza nkaye tarara wenka afite seteze arareba nk'iki kimori ca roza atize ye atigira aha rikwatane bitongore.
Now, if such a person went there and such rural communities where condoms are unheard of, where condoms are expensive, more expensive than even a day's wage. Now, if there's one had the STD, it is likely that he can spread it within the whole community.
My problem with these NGOs is one, that their focus is not on factual development, the real development of the Batwa, but It seems they come up walking around in Kisoro district, already somewhere, with gathering of information, perhaps for other ends or making research richer, rather than thinking on the development. Many of them come down and they pick on the Batwa. They want to photograph them. They want to interview them or have them dance the way you are doing now. The way you are doing, and you simply go away. Coming back after 10 years, nothing has changed. The Batwa have remained the same. And when it comes to the elections of LCs, we have allowed them, even in their communities, their little communities where they are, to have their own elected chairperson, members of the committee, and they form their own council.
In the mountainous Mabuye Meru area, one educational initiative for the Batwa stands out as a pointer to the future. The Mabuye Meru Primary School, which is funded and run by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, provides a special program for the Batwa children from Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
The number of pygmies, we have 62. We have 36 girls and 36 boys.
Cognizant of their social-economic situation, the school provides most of the basic needs for the Batwa children.
Other children, their parents can provide for them, but because of the status of their parents, they cannot manage to provide such essential needs. So there is need for them to be assisted.
The education of the girl child is critical to the integration of the Batwa community.
Their parents, they normally stop them from coming to school, wanting to go with them to dance and get what to eat. And another problem is the community. The community wants to use these children as house girls and house boys, then keeping their looking after their goats. So this has led the number to drop out now and then.
To some extent, I certainly know of some cases where girls have been taken and then forced to marry, probably below age, and then had to leave school, and that's not necessarily been their choice.
What we need now is to have them have some land that belongs to them, not to continue being squatters.
Abana baraba bacona nga mu bagwaneho nimwewe muratugwanaho kugera nga muri iryo biro bamuganusha buyina kanake kasaba kari gushigara karabona karaburiyo karatarukira ariko nyina nkayi nubwo mushiri wa mwana nyina atakiriho nanga se aragushigaramo asigara aragureberera.
Abo kera baryaga inyamaswa mu samba, none ishyamba ryabaye ry'umuzungu, ipariki ni yose bapfa ku nyama. None twewe ubusha mu busore bwacu tugashaka ngo duhinge nk'abanyarwanda, natwe twihe tuje nibara kwera tujane mu guriro.
Wabo tina gataka nk'uko turi mu misiri y'abakiga, akana kawe kagafa baramukweguza ngani batware mu kibira wawundo wo mwari uri kugambo warose nagenzi nashakare regina ejo titwaburiraho kumushika bakagera gatamutware mu ihamba.
The Batwa community is at a crossroads. In a few years, they could be erased from the face of the earth and become extinct. This can be avoided if we address their needs urgently and appropriately. But one thing is clear: time is not on our side.
mbese zonkuru nigenda nzagaburirwa nande ati mbese mwana wanjye uzagaburirwa nande ninzagenda uzaroba uwatora cyo munsigire murebe yaba ari ntawe ninzagapfa uko nagapfuye n'ubwana bwanjye Kibukira